They'll say he a rat or he just a snap.
Yeah.
You have been challenged, sir.
One could watch this and think that you really hate because of the things that you post on Instagram.
You know, and I was definitely afraid of that.
So it's just competitive energy and things that you say about other artists while you're in hip-hop culture.
How many times have you been arrested?
I don't have an actual, factual number.
Okay. And I die in the street about this shit, man. This shit get it years to me. And then when I do rap shit, man, this shit is full of this type.
Everything you think you know about T.I. and 50 Cent, forget it. This isn't just a rap beef. This is 8 episodes of a story that hasn't been fully told yet. A documentary threat, allegations, careers hanging in the balance. And by the end, you're going to understand why 50 Cent doesn't play fair. Two men stood at the absolute peak of hip-hop. 2 kings, 2 empires, and one of them decided the throne wasn't big enough for both of them. This is not just another rap beef. This is a story about respect, street credibility, federal charges, family humiliation, and a weapon so dangerous that when it was finally deployed, careers changed forever. This is 50 Cent versus T.I., and before this is over, you're going to understand why Hollywood is holding its breath. By the end of 2025, most people thought the drama was dead. T.I. and 50 Cent hadn't been openly beefing for years. They existed in the same industry, sometimes at the same events, mostly ignoring each other. But ignoring each other isn't the same as forgetting. And what happened in early 2026 would prove that some wounds don't heal. They just wait. And when they finally open back up, the infection runs deep. To understand how we got here, we have to go back to a moment that most people forgot about. A moment that planted a seed 20 years ago. A moment that neither man has ever really gotten over. Episode 1. The beginning, when respect meant everything. It's 2006. Hip-hop is at a crossroads. The East Coast had its moment. The West Coast had its era, and now something new was rising up from the South that nobody could quite ignore. 2 men were battling for supremacy and they didn't even know it yet. 50 Cent was the undisputed king of New York. This wasn't metaphorical. This was real. Get rich or die trying had already gone multi-platinum. The man had survived 9 gunshot wounds.
You've been shot how many times?
9 times.
Where were you shot?
Most of them in the legs, like I hit my hand and I hit in the face.
Pain-wise, how bad is it to get shot in the face?
Probably,
Is it a 10?
it's not really like as painful as having to visit the dentist repeatedly for root canal.
What is it still in your tongue?
Yeah, it's great for oral sex.
Did you ever find out who did it?
Yeah, I know who did it shortly after.
And they are now where?
The guy who actually shot me is dead.
He wasn't rapping about street life. He was living it. He had Eminem. He had Dr. Dre. He had a cosign that reached the highest levels of hip-hop royalty. When 50 Cent talked, people listened. When he said your name, you mattered. When he didn't say your name, that meant something too. T.I. was building something different down in Atlanta. He wasn't chasing the same crown. He was creating a new one. Trap music wasn't just a style to him. It was a revolution. He was sharp. He was charismatic. He could wrap circles around most people on a track. And he wanted the world to know his name. Then came Hot 97. Then came Angie Martinez and that one interview that changed everything. 50 Cent sat down and the question came up that every hip-hop fan wanted answered. Who are the top rappers in the game right now? 50 rattled off names. Some of them were expected. Some of them were debatable. But one name that wasn't mentioned at all was T.I. Not once. Not even as an honorable mention. Just silence where his name should have been. In hip-hop, that silence screams louder than any diss track ever could. Omission is disrespect. Omission is dismissal. Omission says, you're not even worth talking about. The streets heard it. T.I. heard it. And that was the moment everything changed. Both men were legitimately on top of the world at the exact same time. That's what made it explosive. 50 Cent wasn't talking down from some lower position. He was on the same mountain looking at another king and deciding that king wasn't good enough. T.I. wasn't going to let that slide quiet. He was hungry, he was ambitious, and he was about to show the world exactly what he could do. But what neither of them expected was how far down the rabbit hole this beef would go, how personal it would become. How one moment in 2007 would attach a label to T.I. that would follow him for the rest of his life. Episode 2, The Arrest, when the streets started talking. October 2007, Atlanta, federal agents, a sting operation. This is where the real story begins. T.I. was arrested in a parking lot at a Midtown Atlanta hotel. The charges were specific and serious. Machine guns, silencers, unregistered weapons. His own bodyguard, a man he trusted with his life, had been flipped by the ATF. The feds had turned him into an informant. Through that bodyguard, T.I. was caught red-handed purchasing firearms that he had no business owning. This wasn't some small-time bust. This was federal. This meant serious time. This meant prison. This meant potential decades behind bars. T.I. was looking at up to 10 years, maybe more. The evidence was overwhelming. He was caught in the act.
I had guns in the car, machine guns and silencers in the car. I had a couple more handguns also in the car for protection, of course. And all of those, we feel we could have beat.
Yeah, because there were never any conversations about silencers.
Right.
There's anything about you talking about machine guns.
Right.
And nothing to do with that.
When they went to my house and went in my closet and saw I had a vault full of more guns. And
that presented a bit of a problem.
But not even just that. The method in which you gained entry into this vault in my closet in the master bedroom of my house was biometric fingerprint scan, which I thought was very cool 007 type shit to do at the time. And that's the only motherfucking thing that kept me from beating the entire case.
Then something happened that shocked the entire music industry. T.I. received a sentence of 1 year and 1 day. 1 year for man caught in a federal sting with machine guns and silencers. For man facing a decade or more of incarceration. 1 year. The judge looked at Clifford Harris and decided that 1 year was enough time for his crimes.
A judge gave T.I., real name Clifford Harris, 1 year and 1 day behind bars for trying to buy unregistered machine guns and silencers, just hours before he was to perform at the BET Hip Hop Awards in 2007.
I had lost sight of what was important. I had lost sight of, the faith that I had in God and how far He brought me. And I guess I resorted to taking matters into my own hands.
The streets started asking questions immediately. How did he get that deal? What did he give up? What information did he trade? In hip-hop, a sentence that light under those circumstances means only one thing. It means you cooperated. It means you told the government something they wanted to know. It means you snitched. Whether T.I. actually cooperated or not became almost irrelevant. The perception had been planted. The doubt had been created. And then 50 Cent saw the opening. 50 Cent grabbed his microphone and he made it clear. He rapped about it. He went on record. On the track You So Tough, he threw the line out there like a hook that was designed to catch. Getting knocked with 10 machine guns and only getting 12 months was the kind of deal that didn't happen for loyal men. It happened for men who gave something in return. It happened for men who snitched.
There's a line in there directed at another rapper in the game.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
What line? What rapper you talking about?
It was a line that has you questioning that you have maybe 9.
What makes you feel like there's a line to a rapper?
It seemed to be very coincidental with the timing of things that are going on.
That's like.
Can we deliver the line for me 1 second? I don't want to do it injustice.
You use real life situations to create something that's entertaining without being specific. That's entertainment to me. Like if I had an issue, when have you known me to be indirect?
T.I. fired back immediately. He denied it. He said his lawyers were just that good. He said he did community service. He said there was no cooperation agreement. But here's the thing about defending yourself against a snitch allegation in hip-hop. The more you defend yourself, the louder it sounds like you're hiding something. The more you deny it, the more people believe it's true. It's a trap with no way out once you step into it. And 50 Cent, who had built his entire empire on the idea of being authentic and real and street, had just stuck that label on T.I.'s forehead. That label wasn't going anywhere. That label was going to follow T.I. through his entire career. That label was going to poison every comeback. That label was going to haunt every interview. That label was the weapon that would end everything else later. Episode 3, The Quiet Years When Empires Were Built. From 2007 to 2020, something interesting happened. The beef went quiet. Not dead, just quiet. T.I. served his year in federal prison. He came home, and instead of disappearing like a lot of rappers do after incarceration, he rebuilt. His album Paper Trail dropped in 2008. It was massive. #1. Grammy nominations, massive hits. The public loves a comeback story, and T.I. was giving them one in real time. He survived the storm. He got stronger. He came back harder, but there was something different about him after prison. Something changed. The snitch label had done damage that no album could completely undo. But T.I. wasn't the type to sit around complaining. He diversified. He got into acting. He landed roles in Marvel movies. He opened businesses in Atlanta. He positioned himself as not just a rapper but an entrepreneur, a businessman, a community leader. He was trying to rewrite the entire narrative of who he was. Meanwhile, 50 Cent was playing a completely different game. While T.I. was struggling with legal consequences and trying to rebuild his reputation, 50 was becoming a mogul. He wasn't just a rapper anymore. He was a producer. He was a TV executive. He created Power. That show became a cultural phenomenon. It ran for 6 seasons. It spawned spin-offs. It made 50 Cent into one of the most powerful forces in entertainment television. He wasn't rapping anymore. He was building an empire. Both men were successful. Both men were thriving. But they were thriving in different lanes, and they still hadn't really resolved what was broken between them in 2006. Then the pandemic hit, and something unexpected happened. Swiss Beats and Timberland created Versus Battle. It was a live stream show where rappers would face off against each other and perform their catalogs against another artist's catalog. It was supposed to be a celebration. It was supposed to be fun. And almost immediately the fans started asking for one matchup. The one matchup that seemed inevitable. T.I. versus 50 Cent. 2 men with unquestionable catalogs. 2 men who had never stood in the same space and been forced to acknowledge what they'd built alongside what they'd buried. 2 men who might finally get closure. T.I. wanted it. He talked about it openly. He went on podcasts and said it was about celebrating each other's music. He framed it as respectful. He said 50 Cent had his respect and the fans deserved to see them battle. He even said they had conversations about it. They talked about doing it.
Okay, so first, it was really about celebrating each other's catalog. Me and this nigga talk back to you, bro. This nigga, I ain't just called a nigga out the blue. Me and this nigga talk like this.
You talk about you were 50?
Yeah, man, we talk about this shit, man. This shit just come out of nowhere.
50 Cent's response was always the same. Memes, jokes, deflection. He never said yes, he never said no. He kept it floating in the space between yes and no, which is the worst place for any negotiation to live. T.I. waited and waited and waited, but the versus battle never happened. For over a decade, that was the state of things between them. Cordial when they crossed paths. Never warm, never genuine. Just 2 men who existed in the same industry and pretended the past didn't matter while knowing damn well that it did. Then T.I. made a decision that would explode everything. Episode 4, the podcast moment when words became weapons. Early 2026, T.I. sat down on $1 million worth of game. It's one of the biggest hip-hop podcasts. Gilly Kid and Wallow host it. The kind of show where rappers say what they really think, where truth comes out. And T.I. decided to tell the truth about what had been going on with 50 Cent behind closed doors. He said they had actually been discussing the versus battle seriously. He said they had agreed to do it. He said the plan was for him to announce it first publicly, and then 50 would jump in and confirm it. That was the agreement. That was the plan. But then something strange happened. When T.I. made the announcement public, 50 Cent did something completely unexpected. He played dumb. He posted on Instagram like he had no idea what T.I. was talking about. He made jokes. He acted confused. He performed ignorance for his entire following and made T.I. look like a liar in the process. In hip-hop, making someone look like a liar in front of millions of people is one of the worst things you can do to somebody's credibility. T.I. felt it immediately. You could hear the shift in his tone on the podcast in real time. His respect for 50 Cent evaporated. He said plainly that he no longer wanted anything to do with him. He said whatever goodwill he had extended was officially withdrawn. He said 50 Cent had shown him exactly who he was, and now everyone knew it too. Then T.I. took it further. He went on Nightcap with Shannon Sharp and said it publicly. 50 Cent was ducking smoke. In hip-hop, that phrase means one specific thing. You're avoiding a confrontation you know you can't win. You're scared, you're dodging, you're running.
I said who I wanted.
You want Weezy?
Nah, I said I wanted 50. That's what I said. He don't want no smoke, though.
Oh, Lord.
I called my man out. He don't want no smoke. He ducking smoke. It's cool. So, now...
T.I. called him out for it directly, on national television, in front of millions of people, and he made it clear that the respect was gone. The partnership was off the table. The celebration was dead. All that was left was tension. 50 Cent's response was immediate. He went back to the vault. He pulled out old footage from 2007, Crime Stopper-style graphics, references to the federal case. the snitch allegations. He flooded the conversation with doubt about T.I.'s character instead of defending his own. If everybody is talking about whether T.I. cooperated with federal authorities, nobody is talking about whether 50 embarrassed him with the verse's fake out. It was a masterclass in deflection, but T.I. wasn't done. He fired back with something that made the entire internet stop in its track. Episode 5, the paperwork when it got dangerous. T.I. didn't hold back. He said straight up that 50 Cent was playing on his name, but more than that. He said he had paperwork on 50 Cent. He said 50 was the actual rat. He said he had documentation proving it. In hip-hop, paperwork is the nuclear option. It's legal documentation that allegedly shows someone cooperated with law enforcement. Claiming you have somebody's paperwork is the most serious accusation one rapper can level at another. It's not just disrespect. It's an existential threat to their entire image. T.I.'s son, King Harris, who is 21 years old and clearly not interested in staying on the sidelines, stepped into the arena. He allegedly shared what he claimed was documentation related to 50 Cent's involvement in the Jimmy Henchman case. The music industry exploded. Was the paperwork real? Was it authentic? Could it actually prove what T.I. was claiming? Lawyers started analyzing it. Street commentators broke it down. Hip-hop Twitter lost its mind. For the first time, 50 Cent's carefully constructed image of untouchability was being publicly challenged, not by another major rapper, by a 21-year-old with a phone and access to his father's platform. The hip-hop community split into camps. Some people believed T.I. had actual receipts. Some people thought King Harris had overstepped and was about to face serious legal consequences. What nobody could deny was that the quiet years were completely, irreversibly over. What had been simmering beneath the surface was now boiling over in public. But that wasn't even the worst part, because then 50 Cent made a decision that crossed a line that hip-hop has understood for decades. A line that you don't cross. A line that makes it personal in a way that music can never be. Episode 6, Dragging Family When It Became Unforgivable. February 2026, 50 Cent posted a photo on Instagram. Not a photo of T.I., a photo of Tamika Harris, known to the world as Tiny, T.I.'s wife, a Grammy-winning songwriter, a woman who had been part of the R&B group Escape, a woman who has her own fan base, a woman who had nothing to do with this beef. The photo was unflattering. The caption was a direct shot at T.I., "Keep my name out of your mouth." It was a precision strike designed to hurt where it mattered most. On family, on the woman he loved.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you like this. What you think about 50 Cent and how he posted a picture of Tiny on social media? What you think about that? Now, do you feel like 50 Cent was wrong for that? Cause that shit messy as hell. I mean, I personally feel like at the end of the day, when it comes down to family, that's off limits. I mean, I feel like everybody should know that. But what you think though? Cause I feel like 50 Cent should never posted a picture of Tiny. She ain't had nothing to do with the beef between him and T.I. And one thing I do know, that T.I., and you know this too, T.I. never, ever tolerated disrespect. Since I was a kid, everybody know that. T.I. be standing on business.
50 Cent has spent his entire career knowing exactly how far to push and exactly where to aim when he wants maximum damage. He knows that attacking a man's wife is crossing a line that most people understand immediately. He posted the photo anyway, because he wanted to send a message that he was willing to go anywhere, that nothing was off limits. But he didn't stop there. A second post came through. This time it was a meme. Tiny and their son King Harris together. The caption, "God don't like ugly." It wasn't just a dig at T.I. anymore. It was humiliation of his entire family. His wife, his child, dragged into a beef that had nothing to do with them. The reaction was immediate and intense. Tiny has a massive and deeply loyal fan base. People who have followed her career. People who respect her as an artist and as a person. Her supporters were furious. Social media exploded. The heat was undeniable. People felt like a woman had been disrespected for sport, and they weren't about to let that slide quiet. But what happened next was something nobody expected. King Harris, T.I.'s son, came back harder than anyone thought possible, and he went somewhere that made even hardened hip-hop veterans pause. He brought up 50 Cent's mother, Sabrina Jackson, a woman who died in a house fire when 50 was just 8 years old, a wound so deep that it shaped everything about who he became. The armor, the aggression, the refusal to show vulnerability. King Harris posted wearing a t-shirt bearing the image of 50 Cent's deceased mother. It was an act of retaliation so pointed, so aimed at the most personal possible target, that even people who had been cheering on the beef went silent for a moment. That's too far. That's off the table. That's crossing into territory that you don't come back from. Rick Ross, who has his own history with 50 Cent that spans years, showed up in the comments. He threw fuel on the flames. He played dumb about whose mother was on the shirt, but everybody understood what he was doing. He was choosing a side. The sharks were circling. Then Damani Harris, another one of T.I.'s sons, dropped a diss track, Miss Jackson. It sampled the Outkast record of the same name, but this wasn't generic. This was a letter directly to 50 Cent's deceased mother. He wrote as though she could hear him. He questioned what kind of man her son had become. He asked whether she would recognize him. It was emotional and ruthless at the same time. It spread like wildfire, and then something remarkable happened. Beyonce's mother, Tina Knowles, posted solidarity with Tiny. When someone of that stature steps into a hip-hop beef on social media, it signals that this has reached every corner of black culture. This wasn't just a rap story anymore. This was a cultural event. 50 Cent deleted the posts, both of them, without explanation, without comment. For a man who leaves controversial content on his page for months without flinching, this was shocking. The deletion didn't create peace though. It did the opposite. It emboldened T.I. He posted immediately, "I don't care what you erase. Keep testing and there's going to be problems." The deletion wasn't a surrender. It was a pause, and everybody knew more was coming. Episode 7, the diss tracks, when music became the battleground. T.I. went to the studio and he made music. Real music, not posts, not memes, not Instagram videos, actual rap. The first track was called War. It wasn't a full attack, it was a warning. It was an announcement that the giant had woken up. He rapped about hibernation and what happens when you wake something that's been sleeping. The message was clear to 50 Cent. You thought I was finished. You thought the noise on podcasts was all I had. You were wrong. The internet lit up within hours. Hip-hop Twitter exploded. The consensus was immediate. T.I. hadn't lost a step. He could still rap. This wasn't nostalgia. This was real bars. But he wasn't done. Days later, he dropped the right one. And this time, the gloves were completely off. He called 50 Cent a small man in a big shell. That phrase cut at the carefully constructed image that 50 had spent decades building. The invincibility. The untouchability. T.I. went deeper. He said 50 specifically targets black rappers with his documentaries and his exposés and his internet campaigns. He's conspicuously soft around other people with equal amounts of controversy. The implication was devastating. 50 picks his targets carefully. He goes after black men in hip-hop. T.I. was refusing to be next. Then T.I. did something bold. He referenced Daphne Joy, 50 Cent's baby mother, a woman who had been publicly connected to Diddy in the months before Diddy's federal arrest. The connection between Daphne Joy and Diddy had been discussed in media circles extensively, but nobody brought it up in the context of 50 defending himself. T.I. used it as a mirror. He showed 50 that his own household wasn't untouched by the same world of scandal and allegation that 50 was weaponizing against others.
But someone did bring up a good point for the documentary. 50 didn't bring up Daphne Joy. You guys know Daphne Joy is, you know who Daphne Joy is, Josh?
No.
It's great podcasting, by the way. Daphne Joy is 50 Cent's baby mama that was with Diddy for a little while, and she was nowhere in the documentary. Daphne Joy, a bad motherfucker too, but go check her out. Daphne Joy, he'll go check her out after that.
February 25th and 26th arrived, and T.I. dropped 2 more tracks in rapid succession. Lessons. What bully? Critics and fans were using language they hadn't used about T.I. in years. Career highlight territory. The best work he'd done in a decade. The focused anger of a man who had been underestimated too many times had produced something genuinely compelling. What bully targeted the central contradiction at the heart of 50 behavior? The man famous for his street toughness was responding to every diss with memes and Instagram posts. T.I. was in the booth. 50 was on his phone. The culture has a standard when it comes to diss tracks. You respond in kind or you lose the round. Memes don't answer bars. Pictures don't answer rhymes. That's the law. 50 Cent's response was to post that old rappers were still trying to battle rap, that he didn't need to rap because T.I. needed him to rap. It was clever in its own way, framing refusal as power, but the hip-hop community wasn't buying it. The narrative was shifting. T.I. was winning the music war. T.I.'s song let no hit #1 on the charts. While 50 was still posting on Instagram, T.I. had the #1 song in the country. His music was connecting with audiences on the deepest level. The crowd was firmly on his side musically. Then on March 9th, 50 Cent finally released music, a track called No One Told Us What We're Here For. It was the theme song for his new series Power Origins. It contained lines directed at T.I. and Tiny, but they were subtle, indirect. They were buried within the promotion of a TV show. He wasn't fully committing to the vulnerability that a real back and forth requires. He was staying on brand. 1 foot in music, 1 foot in business, 1 foot nowhere. T.I. dismissed it publicly. He said while 50 was responding through a TV show theme song, he had the #1 song in the country. The scorecard was clear. T.I. was ahead, but 50 wasn't done, because he was about to pull out a weapon that had nothing to do with music at all. Episode 8, the documentary threat, when the camera became the gun. Every rapper who goes to war with 50 Cent eventually learns the same lesson. The fight was never about music. The fight was never about diss tracks or Instagram posts or who has the better catalog. When 50 Cent decides he wants to destroy someone, he reaches for something far more powerful than a microphone. He reaches for a camera. March 2026, 50 Cent posted on Instagram. The caption was calm. The message was anything but. It was announcing the development of a documentary, tentatively titled Surviving T.I. and Tiny, a name that was deliberately, unmistakably modeled on his Netflix series about Diddy. The Diddy documentary had premiered in late 2025. It had become one of the most watched documentaries in streaming history. It had been followed by federal arrests. It had been followed by one of the most significant criminal cases in entertainment in decades. The parallel was not accidental. The comparison was not casual. It was a direct message. What I did to Diddy, I'm about to do to you.
So you telling me the reason that 50 Cent has been quiet on the whole T.I. beef is because he's sitting back and planning to do another documentary but this time on T.I. and his wife and their essay allegations that they've been fighting? This is about to get ugly. But now, since 50 posted that he's doing the documentary, maybe you believe him. He just posted it this morning. But anybody in the loop knows that T.I. and Tiny have had several allegations of essay over the past years.
Then 50 went further. The caption that later got deleted but not before being screenshotted thousands of times read, "Remember how quiet I got before the Diddy doc?
Your daddy made your mama eat every box in Atlanta." So he's not even talking directly to Tip. He's talking to one of Tip's sons, who is dissed him, right? He's talking to Tip's family about Tip, but not just Tip. He's bringing Tiny into the situation yet again. And 50 also shared this post suggesting that maybe there's a darker story here. Maybe there's something I need to expose like I did with my Diddy documentary. I'm sure 50 is well aware of the allegations against Tip and against Tiny from a few years ago.
And then he mentioned that he hoped this didn't mess up T.I.'s promo tour because people were going to be asking about his 20 assault cases. 20. The number hung in the air like a thunderclap. Whether accurate, exaggerated, or entirely fabricated, the impact was immediate and overwhelming. The internet didn't wait for context or nuance. Comment sections filled within seconds. Entertainment journalists shifted registers immediately. This wasn't a music story anymore. This was something that required completely different coverage. The allegations against T.I. and Tiny, which had originated in 2021 and largely faded from mainstream conversation, were suddenly front and center again. Reports began circulating that the documentary, if it moved forward, would revisit sexual misconduct allegations made by multiple women against both T.I. and Tiny. Allegations that covered a period spanning from approximately 2005 through 2018. The implication was clear. 50 Cent's team was allegedly reaching out to women who had made claims. They were gathering testimony. They were collecting documentation. They were doing what 50 Cent does best, building a narrative, building a case, building something that would make T.I. impossible to defend against because the court of public opinion doesn't require the same evidence as a real courtroom. T.I.'s camp responded with visible anger. The suggestion that 50 Cent was positioning himself as some kind of moral arbiter was called out for what it was, a business move. The Diddy documentary had made money. The Diddy documentary had generated attention. A follow-up featuring another major hip-hop figure would do the same. This wasn't accountability. This was commerce, but the threat had been made. The comparison had been drawn publicly and deliberately, and everybody watching understood that 50 Cent was no longer just attacking T.I.'s street credibility. He was potentially threatening his freedom, his family, his legacy, his ability to continue working in an industry where perception is everything. The documentary weapon had been deployed, and to understand why it landed with such force, you have to understand where those allegations actually came from. January 2021. The world was still locked down, still isolated, Still living in that strange suspended reality of the pandemic, T.I and Tiny were at a relatively stable point in their public lives. Their reality series was still airing. Their family was visible and seemingly intact. Then a woman named Sabrina Peterson opened Instagram and typed a post and changed everything. Sabrina Peterson wasn't a stranger to T.I and Tiny. She had been part of their social circle. She had appeared on their television series. She had been at their events. She was an insider, which meant her allegation carried a different kind of weight than if it came from someone on the outside. She alleged that T.I had held a loaded gun to her head. She alleged that this happened after she had looked out for Tiny on several occasions. The claim was specific. It was visceral. It was impossible to ignore because it named one of the biggest rappers in America in an act of potentially criminal violence.
First of all, never said that your husband was an abuser, okay? Because he couldn't abuse me. Let's just be clear. He abuses you. So that's never a comment Sabrina used, okay? Let's be clear on that. Me speaking about what I experienced is my experience, okay? Your husband put a gun to my head after me looking out for you on several occasions. You are the battered woman. I'm saying you're the woman that's always somewhere crying. You're the one that's always being cheated on. You're the one, but you the one that wants to go run to your friends and tell them what he did wrong in X, Y, and Z. And I was so young, I did not know.
The post broke open something that had apparently been building for years. Within days, dozens of women began coming forward on Peterson's Instagram stories. They shared their own accounts of alleged encounters with T.I and Tiny. The details were dark and disturbing. Women alleged being drugged with substances including Molly and other pills. They alleged being taken to hotel rooms and private residences where they couldn't leave. They alleged that their cell phones were confiscated so they couldn't call for help or document what was happening. They alleged sexual contact they had not consented to. The accounts taken together described a pattern, not isolated incidents, a method, a system. By the time the wave crested, attorneys were involved. Tyrone Blackburn, a civil rights attorney based in New York, announced he was representing 11 clients, 10 women and 1 man who had claims against T.I and Tiny. He sent formal letters to the attorneys general of both Georgia and California requesting that criminal investigations be opened.
That are located in Georgia. So they are interviewing the women. They know who the women are. And right now we're just going through the process of collecting and securing corroborating evidence and solidifying all of these interviews. None of the women know each other. They've never met each other. And I've gone through great lengths to ensure that remains so the integrity of the investigations remain high. There is no connection and no nexus between the current investigation that is active in Los Angeles, the police report that was filed in Las Vegas, and the forthcoming report that will be filed again in Los Angeles. I do not want to.
Lisa Bloom, who had represented multiple women in the Harvey Weinstein case, announced she was representing 2 additional women with similar accounts. The New York Times conducted its own investigation. They interviewed 5 of the alleged victims directly. They reviewed text messages. They reviewed photographs. They reviewed corroborating materials. The Times' reporting gave the allegations a level of journalistic credibility that social media posts alone could never provide. It was no longer just a viral Instagram story. It was documented reporting in one of the most respected newspapers in the world. It was serious. It was real. It was something that couldn't be dismissed. Some of the specific details that emerged were particularly shocking. One alleged victim was described as having been 17 years old during the summer of 2006, a minor. Another alleged victim was a veteran of the United States Air Force who claimed she had been drugged at a nightclub in Atlanta in 2005 and transported to a hotel room where the alleged assault took place. These weren't abstract claims. They had names. They had dates. They had locations. They had corroborating accounts. But perhaps the most destabilizing element of the entire story was how it repositioned Tiny in the public imagination. For years, Tiny Harris had been the sympathetic figure, the woman who waited for her husband during 2 prison sentences, the mother who kept the family together, the artist who gave years of her career to supporting his. The allegations described her not as a victim of the same environment, but as an active participant in it. Multiple accusers allegedly described described Tiny as the person who recruited women, the person who befriended them, the person who facilitated their exposure to the alleged abuse. The word ringleader appeared in multiple accounts. It was a characterization that stunned the public. It fundamentally shifted how the entire story was received. T.I. and Tiny's response came through their attorneys. They emphatically and categorically denied every allegation. They called the claims groundless and unjustified. They said they were fighting back legally, and they would continue fighting back for as long as it took. It was important to understand something clearly. Neither T.I. nor Tiny have ever been charged with any crime. Not by the state of Georgia, not by the state of California, not by any law enforcement agency in the United States. They have maintained consistently and categorically since the very first allegation surfaced that every claim made against them is false. But the professional consequences were immediate even in the absence of any charges. VH1 suspended production on their family reality series. The Marvel Cinematic Universe quietly removed T.I. from his planned role in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. The court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict, and in that court, perception is everything. When allegations of this nature become public and involve this level of documented detail, law enforcement has very little choice but to respond. And respond they did, on 2 separate coasts, in 2 separate jurisdictions, with 2 separate investigations. The Los Angeles Police Department confirmed that an active investigation had been opened into T.I. in connection with allegations made by accusers in California. Simultaneously, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department received a formal report from a woman named Rel Jensen, who alleged she had been forced to engage in sexual acts with T.I. during an encounter in Las Vegas. Both investigations proceeded through the machinery of law enforcement. Detectives conducted interviews. They reviewed evidence. They built case files. The hip-hop world watched and waited. Both cases were eventually closed. The Las Vegas case was closed due to the statute of limitations. The legally defined time window within which criminal charges can be filed had expired, meaning even if the allegations were substantiated, prosecutors could not proceed. The LAPD investigation reached the same conclusion for the same reason. No charges were filed in either jurisdiction. Not because investigators found the claims to be false, but because the clock that the law sets on pursuing these cases had run out. T.I. and Tiny have consistently maintained their total innocence throughout. In the civil courts, the battles continued and became even more complex. On March 1st, 2021, Sabrina Peterson filed a defamation lawsuit against both T.I. and Tiny. T.I. and Tiny didn't simply defend. They went on offense. They filed their own counter-defamation suits. They argued that the allegations themselves had been fabricated and weaponized to extort them. The legal battlefield expanded dramatically. Then in January 2024, a new development arrived. The Air Force veteran who had alleged being assaulted in 2005 filed a civil lawsuit under California's Sexual Abuse and Cover-Up Accountability Act, a special law that created a temporary window allowing victims to file civil suits even when the statute of limitations had previously expired. T.I. and Tiny filed an immediate motion to dismiss. They called it another form of extortion. The case remained active as of early 2026. The legal war had no clear end in sight. And now, with 50 Cent threatening to put all of it on a streaming documentary, the question of what happens next had become impossible to ignore. The camera had become the most dangerous weapon in hip-hop, and 50 Cent knew exactly how to use it. What began as a versus agreement that was publicly denied had transformed in the span of just a few months into one of the most multi-dimensional public feuds in hip-hop history. You had diss tracks. You had family members dragged into the center of the storm. You had paperwork allegations flying in both directions. You had a documentary threat that carried the kind of weight that had ended careers before. You had a full catalog of unresolved legal cases sitting beneath the surface of every single moment. 50 Cent's most dangerous weapon was never a diss track. It was never music. It was always the camera and his willingness to point it at whoever he decides deserves the spotlight. He did it with Diddy, and the result was one of the most watched documentaries in streaming history, followed by one of the most significant criminal cases in entertainment in decades. Whether the surviving T.I. and Tiny documentary actually materializes remains to be seen, but the threat alone has reactivated a conversation that T.I. and Tiny had spent 3 years trying to put behind them. T.I, for his part, is preparing what he's called his final album, Kill the King. Whether that's a coincidence in timing or the most deliberate marketing move of his career is a question only he can answer. When asked by TMZ about all of this, his response was simple and unambiguous. He said, "I wasn't here to defeat, I was here to defend." Here's the question worth sitting with after everything you've just heard. Is 50 Cent a man of genuine moral conviction using his platform to give voice to people who allege they were silenced? Or is this a business empire doing what business empires do, identifying the most commercially valuable story available and claiming the rights to it? In an era where a documentary can do what a court case cannot, the camera has become the most dangerous weapon in hip-hop, and 50 Cent knows exactly how to use it. The beef between 50 Cent and T.I is not over. It's not even at its peak. It's sitting at a moment where almost anything can happen next. More diss tracks, more documentaries, more legal battles, more family drama. The only thing that's certain is that both men have shown they're willing to go places that most people wouldn't even consider. They've shown that in hip-hop in 2026, the real war is not fought on microphones. It's fought on cameras and in courtrooms and on social media, and in the court of public opinion where the verdict is rendered before any judge ever gets involved. If you made it this far, you know there's way more to this story than what you see on the surface. This isn't just drama. This is the state of hip-hop in 2026. This is what happens when respect gets twisted into disrespect, when music becomes secondary to power, when the goal stops being to win and starts being to destroy. So here's what I need from you. Subscribe to this channel. You're not going to find this level of breakdown anywhere else. This is the kind of deep dive analysis that takes time and research and energy. When you subscribe, you're supporting the work that goes into stories like this. You're telling YouTube that this content matters. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you think. Is 50 Cent justified in doing the documentary? Do you think T.I deserves what's coming to him? Do you believe the paperwork allegations? Do you think this beef ever actually ends? The conversation matters. Your voice matters. Comment down below and hit that like button. When this video gets likes, signals to YouTube that you found this valuable, that you learned something, that you want to see more content like this. The algorithm is real and it decides what millions of people see. Your like matters. This beef is far from over. There's going to be more development. There's going to be more twists. There's going to be moments that shock everyone. And when those moments come, you're going to want to be subscribed so you see them first. So hit subscribe, enable notification, and stay locked in. Until next time, keep your head up and your eyes open. In hip-hop in 2026, nothing is off limits and nobody is untouchable.